Theoretically, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio could become the next U.S. president, but it's more likely we'll see Harvey Weinstein get a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Organization of Women in 2020. Most Americans don't know who de Blasio is, and those who do generally hate him. Of the 23 Democratic hopefuls, he alone has a lower favorability rating than Donald Trump, much lower. That's not a recipe for success. So why is de Blasio running for president? If you think he's delusional, you don't understand Bill de Blasio and his cronies. This is a calculated move by New York's power brokers that will serve their purposes long after de Blasio gets laughed off the stage. Once again, the joke's on us. Declaring yourself a candidate allows you to seek campaign contributions, which are completely different from bribes. Think left Twix, right Twix. Term limits prevent de Blasio from running for mayor again, which would make fundraising for that office highly suspect, even in New York. By declaring himself a presidential candidate, the mayor can reopen the pay-to-play window without raising too many eyebrows. De Blasio's influence peddling isn't a conspiracy theory. It was the conclusion of a 2-year federal investigation into his fundraising tactics. Acting U.S. Attorney June H. Kim released this statement in March 2017. Mayor de Blasio and others acting on his behalf solicited donations from individuals who sought official favors from the city, after which the mayor made or directed inquiries to relevant city agencies on behalf of those donors. Ironically, the announcement goes on to say, "We do not intend to bring federal criminal charges against the mayor or those acting on his behalf." So much for that justice for all crap. In case you haven't noticed, long fruitless government investigations into government wrongdoing have become yet another way for those inside the fortress to fleece taxpayers. Everybody gets paid, and nobody gets charged, even if some fool confesses to bribery. Please see Michael Daly's discussion of hairdressing here. Bill de Blasio has undoubtedly become a central player in New York's political machine, but it would be a mistake to paint him as the mastermind. He's a dimwit. The people orchestrating from the shadows were there before him and will remain after he's gone. They seek to control the office. Who occupies it is a trivia question. It's likely that de Blasio's successor has already been chosen, but before we issue that spoiler, let's look at one of the city's shadiest deals and its connections to people de Blasio knows and owes. In April 2019, New York City announced a deal to buy 21 apartment buildings for $173 million from Jay and Stuart Podolsky, second-generation slumlords with more than 400 pending housing code violations, as well as a long history of abusing tenants and exploiting government programs. In 2013, New York Magazine chronicled the Podolsky family's life and crimes in a must-read feature entitled "Why Run a Slum? If You Can Make More Money Housing the Homeless?" By all accounts, the $173 million price tag is outrageous. The city's initial appraisal of the properties was $50 million, a second, private appraisal was $143 million. Why would the city pay such an enormous premium to men so contemptible? The answer is simple: because that's what de Blasio was put in office to do. As de Blasio's political stock began to rise, so did his debts. In the months leading up to his first mayoral victory, he refinanced 2 properties in Brooklyn for more than $1.2 million. The loans were a generous extension of credit considering that the borrower would be unemployed if he failed to win the election. The lender of record was Wall Street Mortgage Bankers Limited Bob Power Express. The New York Post discovered the loan records in January 2014 and attempted to explore the firm's relationship to Brooklyn Democratic leader Frank Seddio and lawyer Frank Karen. A de Blasio aide dismissed the connection as coincidental at the time. 5 years and $173 million later, it looks like the Post was onto something. Wall Street Mortgage Bankers Limited, WSMB, Power Express was founded in 1990 by Keith Kantrowitz and Abraham Podolsky. Abraham is Jay and Stuart Podolsky's brother. The siblings had a public rift in the 1980s, but they're still brothers. They say time heals all wounds, and so does gobs of money. Keith Kantrowitz steers clear of close associations with politicians these days. The last mayoral candidate he stood up in support of was Anthony Weiner, and that didn't end well. Frank V. Karen is the attorney representing Jay and Stuart Podolsky in the $173 million deal via law firm Abrams Fensterman. Karen is the man credited with negotiating the bloated price. Here's a few more fun facts about Frank. Karen has multiple associations with Brooklyn Democratic leader Frank Seddio. The pair joined Abrams Fensterman together in November 2011. Cedillo is no longer there. They operated a law practice called Cedillo and Karen from 2008 until 2014. According to City and State New York, Cedillo and Karen were invited to dinner at Gracie Mansion a few days after de Blasio was sworn in. Karen has served as counsel to the Brooklyn Democratic Party for approaching 10 years. In 2011, Mayor Michael Bloomberg appointed him to the Nick Taxi and Limousine Commission. In 2015, de Blasio extended his term through 2022. Karen has undeniable associations with the WSMB Power Express brand, Biz Standing, LinkedIn, ZoomInfo, and Corporation Wiki all identify Karen as an owner or principal of variations of the brand names. Records also show Abrams Fensterman and WSMB operated from the same building, 1111 Marcus Avenue, in Lake Success, New York for more than 10 years. Karen contributed $5,000 to de Blasio's Fairness PAC in 2018 and has acknowledged that he helped solicit other donors. In January 2017 article he stated de Blasio has been to my family functions and we've socialized outside of politics. Karen also stated that it made sense for him to represent the Podolskis because he's known the family for more than 30 years. Frank Cedillo isn't so easily reduced to a few bullet points or paragraphs. He's a larger-than-life figure that has woven himself into the very fabric of life in Brooklyn. How many people can say they served as a New York City police officer for 23 years, started law school at the age of 40, then served as a judge, and became the county head of a political party? If anyone alive knows what happened to Jimmy Hoffa, it's Frank Cedillo. It's hard to fathom the sway Frank Cedillo has in New York politics. He's connected to the justice system at every level from the cops on up. He's launched and ended the careers of judges and politicians. Books get written about guys like Frank Cedillo. There are only a few things about Cedillo relevant to this discussion. Perhaps the most important point is that without his help, Bill de Blasio isn't mayor of New York and Frank Karen doesn't get to make that blockbuster deal with the city. Like Frank Karen, Cedillo also has undeniable connections to Power Express and Abrams Fensterman. According to a New York Daily News story, Cedillo joined Power Express in 2007 when he stepped down as a Brooklyn surrogate judge amid an ethics probe over allegedly giving more than $55,090 in unspent campaign money to party pals and a political club whose backing he needed to get on the bench. The article also states Cedillo will be in charge of community relations at Power Express. Interesting. If you still believe the coincidence story, the mayor has a bridge you might be interested in. If so-called investigators can't find enough evidence to prosecute de Blasio and